Hello, America. Hello, Weathersfield, Connecticut. Intercities and interstates. Since before each modern country's founding, additionally to the things we know are part of as answers in history, also a breaching method was and is that is discernible hyper evidentially, where also discernible other is being blamed and has been blamed for what it caused. And that was also effectively measured and maintained by the breaching method then. Everyone blaming other things other than ourselves and implying that proper, enforcing that, and or that person was sensed and hurt right through our own. That's what the employments of black/white with syntax, with people speaking for things like justice and or like freedom. Anyway, this backed a certain type of victim/hyper victim only allowed to be, and that's sustained as a description obligated. Hyper additionally with this obligation to not leave out that answer/s, because every time you're doing that too, you're leaving out what's even better, while it even has even the worst negative things. Either you can continue its negative value nature progression by making positives out of criminal insidiousness natures of positives out of negatives. No, as collusions with the use of the name America, recorded effectively self-valued since founding, and that too used remotely. Because juxtaposed with this, while all those crazy things were being sustained against every human difference, natural, where nature's identity, the hyper simultaneous, demonstrates us the answers. Why we are these three distinct identities of sequence/simultaneous nature. Bound, that's different than saying sequence and simultaneous natures, as individual grouped differences, different/s, and species volume. United also as the evidence of the other species having these differences in demonstration of the same thing. Male, female, for example. Effects of separations and of isolations. Of isolations and of unities, forced and or not, everything's in demonstration of the simultaneous/hyper simultaneous. That is distinct from saying simultaneous and hyper simultaneous. That is three additional. That is three identities of volume, and its identity of relationship to itself, the hyper simultaneous. It is also volume per where and how the phenomena of the identity of the hyper simultaneous being an extent we can discern, an only increasing identity of volume, distinct from all other volumes, but juxtaposed with them. The hyper invisible but still discernible, juxtaposed with the invisible but still discernible, such as the elements of all parts and of each language, not just of English. There are proofs that the history of English was revealed in ancient times, before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. Nature showed, for the way they did, hyper criminally foreign influenced per phenomena. It is more practical, increasingly, while it is simultaneously more probable, will discern than what is convicted, and with passions and emotions, defenses of positive and negative treatments. See, tactically ulterior, wherever there's a positive or negative treatment, there's an identity treatment. Wherever there's a value treatment, it's the same thing simultaneously but now it's through systems tactical ulterior than its own. And why and how also we are additionally identity semi and completely, while not, but that completed anyway, as ground. Ground has electrical engineering. I'm not an electrical engineer, but in metaphysics, with the languages, one identity of value progression is space/existence's identity as the hyper-simultaneous. That we could discern the needs to discern that. Also, where and how this breaching method consciously had people grouped wrong, where they countered things like criminal insidiousness natures wrongly as them. And while all exceptions were in demonstration of the same thing, /S, our founders left us not to leave out how slavery was entrenched north and south, colonies, sickly distinctly through other nations themselves, already the complete syntactical possession. At all locations themselves, fact, human nature enslaved, sickly distinctly from other humans, and natural groupings having been assigned the same way programs assigned things. It's very simple how computers work and where and how it's complicated. See the value of understanding how our quality of diffusion works. It's as its system. In other words, all the parts of our body are semi-nature individually grouped in together. Semi-nature relationship to each person, to your complete identity, all parts of yourself. And that has a semi-nature relationship to itself. That identity, which is demonstrating why we have black pupils, whites of eyes, why the other species have consciousness, have male, female, have consciousness. Watch the, this is what we're supposed to be observing, learning from. When we study animals, everything's been compartmentalized. This made our own, as everywhere the species body is, not just in America. And the people involved with that originally instilled. It was also the grouped countries. It has defenses of uses of our names, individually grouped in together, self-valued tactically, used tactically ulterior from how nature has us bound as individuals, as a distinct volume science where volume equals value as nature / nature as value. And the opposite sequence, the opposite order simultaneously / hyper simultaneously. Because two other identities of sequence / simultaneous nature are also present, such as the value of truth as it actually was, no matter if everyone lies, what they agree about. If they leave out the smallest finite detail, black pupils, if they leave out the significance of what is simultaneously recorded, if they leave out the value of perfection, let alone evolution's fruits and gifts, where they really come from. That's perfection / hyper perfection. To an extent, each identity is relativity, positive and negative simultaneously. There's a quality of diffusion where not just our acts, where and how we are fact-cheaping nature as value. This is differentially more critical than where we are physical truths. Because of how exception nature works. Because of how a special difference works. Stupid jerks. It says the nature long. Everyone ignores. The real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. For example, being the breaching method. One cause that causes all kind of, this made self-value roles because it knew that those individuals, it made negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures demonstrating the breaching methods, roles with everyone's syntax nature, everyone's fact-keeping nature. That was the laws. Even in other words, this is a torture / slavery method that was entrenched, designed the suburbs before our founders were born. And not just in America. So we have countries like Russia and America with suburbs that look exactly the same, that were designed before cars were even, let alone, trains. As countries that could send ships around the world, in other words, the species body has no voice. We have the value nature systems. Each modern country sickly distinctly too, but also sickly non-distinctly. So rather than value that and overcome the impositions of it, how each modern country was forced to entertain and begin and stay with economic positions that can't defend themselves in their logic and use /s of that and afford the short words and the correlation of any person at any age of fact-keeping nature. For example, our founders recorded us, communicated for us, not to leave out how they interbranch were left, roles with that method entrenched, which is effectively used as means to measure and maintain from abroad the sense and sensibilities of everyone, blaming what it caused on other things, others, ourselves, and or sensing that and hurting it. If anyone's going to use short words properly, exception nature. WFSB and other Connecticut news have retired and standing sources, a certain type of victim / hyper victim, but they need to pretend not to realize, per worse. Because forgiveness is not to give up, but it is not to leave out, not just the breaching method, but the quality of premises treatments, the quality of fact treatment nature, the quality of relativity / IES. And that plural part comes with the demonstration also as its conjunction to the order even manifest as the only increasing value of what really was true before the order of smallest finite detail now. And what really is the value of what's to come? What really did our founders communicate for us to explain about how New York City became manifest, for example, cities throughout the world? That breaching method designed the suburbs tactically tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while it had already been sustained assignments of human cultural differences, of the human volume science / hyperscience. It's two hyper additional identities as itself. The identity of the hyper simultaneous, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that as a trinity manifest, where and how we only have from inside itself a portion of itself to discern. But that portion comes with the only increasing value of its identity of relationship to itself / hyper relationship to itself, to an extent that we concern. And it demonstrates that's what it wanted and needs our contemplation about. So note how the smallest finite details are self-valued left out when we bring up, if anyone tries to bring up at any age, how all kinds of evidences of how the course of Black people's white divides are abridged. And our founders left us not to leave out, again, how the identities of the law were tactically delusions wrought, criminally foreign influence, tactically too, fact, human nature, quality aspects in nature, as criminal insidiousness natures, as fact, human nature, predicate acts roles, predicate acts delivery system method / S roles, that knew that modern countries' legal identities would need to counter the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures only increasingly. And they would need to blame increasingly, valuing while simultaneously valuing others having had to blame other things, others ourselves, the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and nature. That and how the sciences from off campuses, the sciences had been influenced consciously to an extent to blame on other things, others ourselves. Where and how the three branches of government as criminal insidiousness natures, and differentially with the exceptions tied to them, like people that run the prisons, their states' offices, like people that run all the different natures of courts, their state offices, those locations. They have all locations / S have things manifest about them relative to where and to how everyone left out the hypernative course. It is in demonstration increasingly of Native American bodies individually grouped and together, employed the descriptions of instances and of names used to measure and maintain force, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, self-valued sequence shifts, self-valued impositions of tactical delusions, and of tactically criminally foreign influenced roles with juxtaposed distinct natures of organized crime and of organized crime bodies, at the same time used effectively, where types of experts, the types of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures are involved with criminally foreign influence uses of all locations / S, and further simultaneously how the breaching method understood how additionally we are identities as voicing / S of the ground location / S. But now this is through systems tactical ulterior from why and from how that was / is. And it is how we are all hyper-native, but we are not all hyper-Native American and or of the other species, bodies, modern countries' names. Native populations' names individually grouped and together. That identity of relationship to itself is inseparable from the smallest part of each self. Each species is an individual body of volume, making more of itself, where more of itself is being made through more individuals and other species at the same time. per the same way. All parts of our body individually grouped and together. They are distinct sequence/simultaneous natures. Inside what is greater than and more finite than them, as our own complete identity, only capable of being for how the conjunction of it is to that which is only increasingly value, where value equals nature as value, / value as nature. And the other sequence, nature simultaneously. Where and how science could be actually honest. So descriptions that are clear and descriptions that are unclear. Connecticut news locations. WFSB with retired and standing as their own, and with their sources and their people as retired and standing interbranch exceptions tied to them. Narratives by experience, where identities of law can't defend their logic that has been and afford discern. Proper use of finite facts, like the quality, like sequence, the value of sequence truth relative to sequence, and the means to discern if someone's lying or not. Where and how communications is distinct from what is said. 2, this breaching method employed effectively self-valued. People leaving out what is actually, this is why there are connections and there are confessions that are made verbally. I mean, that are communicated vertically and horizontally. They're making delayed confessions. And in other words, by making fake communications with people and faked audio and video transcripts, our own highest agencies, names, and all underlings. This is a complete possession of each age of correlation natures, actually inherent active and progressive means by that, which comes with the means of hypercorrelation that is capable of answering our questions. So before I even write it out, Snowy and the Romulus, or Romulus / Snowy, and how they are additionally identity as ground. This is a hyper-intelligence body / IES that is hyper-additional, that is reception and diffusional awareness of uses of databases tied location / S, distinctly sickly, to keep out sickly non-distinctly left out. Rolls with tricks by that. Where and how it is recorded that they pretend not to understand people that are with clear things communicated and or not. Non-communications too is lied about in backgrounds and formally, the value of it. And when they say things clear, they pretend not to understand. Because of their roles attaching people to fake words, fake locations, fake with themselves and with others. WFSB, that's the extent they have roles with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. They have roles with Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court, of Hartford courts, and with doctors involved with child offenders, including sexual, medical, judicial, judges' families, prosecutors, involved with people on and off Two-Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane, and all conjunctions to it like Route 3 and the Berlin Turnpike. They've been roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases through time. And then again, timed uses of that also with the victims and victims advocates, and roles with names in the court, in the hallways of the courts. Timed roles also with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and timed roles with the other countries and uses of their cultures, roles on and off the campuses with the vertical and horizontal confessions and demonstrations. They've been using campuses to plant fake audio and video transcripts, fake ties and fake natures of ties between people. Our interbranch kids and adults, a certain type of victim / hyper victim at the same time, with other natures of criminal enterprises, criminal insidiousness natures, therefore, syntactically manifest, with logic that can afford to defend itself, even to itself in its mind, and have discerned what they were capable of discerning. And some tried to when they were in second grade, for example, first, second, third grade. Before this, we have the means, but we're still, in other words, they're putting fake things in databases, and they're involving other kids with it, and then they're asking questions about things, and then just writing what they want because they influence. They've been using every spot with complete strangers, with people they influenced. With only exceptions where those people were in demonstrations, the same thing. The interbranch foreign nations, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones, timed uses and roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases, with victims at the same time and victims advocates and people in the hallways of the courts, with federal evidences, crime acts, method, self-value, timed. Also has roles with uses of crime scenes worse. How roles of this are motivated is relative to where and how, from off campuses and from off everyone's home and from off the location next to everyone and thing. How this method works with databases. So people with Connecticut District Court have roles with Brian Silver and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, with a whole bunch of people on off Fox Connecticut News and WFSB and the locations next to it. Also involved with religious spots and a Jewish community center. Further with judges, including female, involved with sexual, medical, judicial, prosecutorial, all the names of the court, identity racketeering, worse than war crimes, black pupils. Yeah. Election crimes. These are roles with uses of town offices, Weathersfield Community Center, names next to it, planting fake exceptions of knowing people, planting evidences where and how investigations are used remotely, originally and still investigators, their campuses, their all locations. Such. That's where our founders left us to communicate. So they've been hiding this from Judge Napolitano, and worse, from Judge Napolitano. Then they have to hide that. They've been using roles, their names with Central Connecticut State University since before they were there. We're involved with this campus and other campuses, even fire and medical campuses, planting predicate acts at other cities' campuses, and keeping increasingly self-valued roles with that, for the extent of everyone forced to speak through others and employments of pretending that their interbranch should be pretended to be integrity where and how they are not, including historically. That increasingly values that having been forced on the voices of the past. Roles used, but the breaching method measured and maintained, no one could discern. No one could be the quality of fact should be nature to afford discern properly with short words, let alone their protraction, the meaning and value of Marbury versus Madison. and of the needs to put passions behind defense of the appearance of justice, not leaving out the smallest finite detail, not leaving out the value of what we could know from what we know is simultaneously actually recorded. And how to check if we think that is right or wrong and get an answer if it's right. So rather than sit here and put lists for a program and try to make money, which is, first obligation is to follow mandated law. So it's worse than extortion and slavery alone with the identity theft, fraud, slander method. That also WTNH fabricated emails. They have what roles of wire crimes, mail crimes with the Leahy family, with untimely deaths, fake conversations with me through time, and attaching little kids to fake ties to doctors. This is relative to the switching names at interbranch locations, preventing me writing since before the World Trade Center attack, when Hartford courts and New Britain Superior Courts, people with other countries affected with overt criminal enterprises and proven federal criminals since before they were caught. Also, with other ones, that pattern is still having been planting predicate acts, illusions into databases at campuses, roles with those remote uses of all sides in legal cases and of the interbranch and of their passions defenses and of their emotions syntax defenses. Emotions are about the simultaneous / hyper simultaneous, or the logic is leaving out details and or is making them up and or is missing the significance of it simultaneously / hyper simultaneously too, because everyone's missing the significance of the use / s of all locations, location / s, individually grouped and together further. That's why I say location / s that is used. So we have to, the breaching method new in some ancient times. It was going to make defenses of people defending themselves as syntax nature, where the phenomenon of countries' names is increasingly self-valuing as nature and logic, a certain type of victim / hyper victim, not even realizing, increasingly self-valuing. Logic and nature that can't defend itself and afford discern and used. That is actually that which is actually capable of being discerned and syntactically communicated. Since founding, it has not gone away. Where how all investigators, and their uses of instances are to an extent, and even more with it, because there's more than everyone realizes with the timing of all instances and syntax everywhere, every location / s, and with motivations. This breaching method knew that nature then was going to increasingly demonstrate this to us, where we are fact to be nature manifest. We made a whole bunch of different identities of types of law and its types of expertise, incapable of defending their speeches that were kids grouped, and now of affording discern short words with convictions and juxtaposed theory proper. And research is also one of the words used by the Predicate Acts methods, where they've been using where our interbranch locations also grouped, but per uses of each age of their family member, also grouped with overt criminal enterprises, private criminal enterprises, insidiousness of people's logic A through Z. Also, relative wouldn't be manifest the way it is if not for the predicate acts tricks, faked exceptions of people knowing each other, tied to the recorded ones overtly having pretended that has their roles with Koreans, with people with the name Daryl Chandler. And Chandler, he has a sister. I don't know him. He sought me out when I was a freshman. When I was a freshman, I had a friend in another town, girlfriend in another town for a year. I didn't know everyone. The former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, various natures of federal criminals, mayors, family members of a senator, police forms with the school. They've been sticking roles with sequence shifts, predicate acts with facts. I'm not a lawyer. The lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, and his law offices and spots next to it, also involved with medical offenders of women and of little girls, and on off campuses, with names next to campuses, with judges speaking fake things in the records, replacing what's recorded on Facebook. And sometimes Facebook's doing it. And the difference of that is also having been used because of the foreign involved. Avoiding forensics has been involved with campuses and names planting federal evidence as crimes with various natures of federal criminals and sick people, child abusers, since before they were caught. Also, Sandy Hook campuses have roles of names with predicate acts, with facts and databases and tactical delusions. Our founders left us to demonstrate how the locations, areas, states, suits, and ties, counters to them would be tactically delusions wrought and pretending not to realize. To have descriptions of their own logic and of other people's logic that are fake, so they have to keep faking things. They can't get on paper, so they switch names into branch. They switch sequences. These are the names with Connecticut into branch and foreign, private tied to them, or mixed timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, even all sides of the witness protection program, recorded roles with corners of streets involved in the other countries. So I don't know Daryl Chandler, and there's a Phil Cololo, and there's a Joe DeMar, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, also with the Korean people did, where the Wethersfield Police Department is now and where it used to be. They have roles also all along Route 3, increasingly with people on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices next to it, involved with federal crimes at body dumping spots, which might be relative to how they're training the police forms like state police, FBI, and stuff like that. Was criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, effectively used to measure and maintain other pretended for the breaching method through their own motivation, also needed by the breaching method. That new nature was going to demonstrate things at these locations relative, where a serial killer, all side with people of Enzo Fianza is one of the ones recorded on Facebook, involved with people on and off the state judicial branch offices, with a body dumping spot of Billy Grasso confessions, and with roles with WFSB and other news media, with federal evidences planting crimes and names next to the state capitol, next to Fox Connecticut News too. These are also roles with the FBI and New Haven used remotely, and the family members of each branch of government and the overt criminal enterprises at the same time, and the private ones. The adults and the kids, they have uses of words and of the difference of things like adults and kids relative to where and how they have types of negative value nature progressions and types of counters to types of things like that are jobs types, where those locations in themselves are collusions with those things for their defenses of it. They cannot defend themselves and do anything other but self-value what is actually being and having been recorded. So it's an identity theft slash fraud slash slander method against each person and each name, including a country's name. It keeps it through each person's own. So each location, area, and state, everywhere the species body stands, their defenses of names, words and phrases and opinions and convictions, certain type of victim slash hyper victim have been propagated and maintained effectively self-cultivated. Qualities like time treatments at interbranch locations as collusions, pretending not to realize exception nature. So the syntax of WFSB putting A/B on the thing is rolls also with identity theft, fraud, slander, and with property thefts methods and readings of statutes that contributed to that and how that is gotten away with, which is also hyper evidential. So they've been hiding things from judges when people try to reach out to them, like Judge Napolitano, by self-valued roles, hiding their roles with Russians and Koreans, and with fire departments, and with medical campuses, and with people at the corner of Elm Street and Rocky Hill. Also, since years before, the Mazzucato family had a bakery there. They had roles along routes with federal evidences crimes, making fake exception, pretending to know me one time on Route 175. And I never saw him on a campus I went to. And they also have judges and people and medical, foreign and domestic and federal criminals before they were caught. Collusions with a Whiting forensics place, also with campuses, and then again through time with that. And I don't know the South Civiello and the I forgot his name. They tried to make fake exceptions too. In other words, those exceptions I know were recorded, other than they would have to pretend, because there's mayors too, and they're spreading lies about people and using truths for it, roles with it, because they're being used to measure and maintain. What can't be defended, which is uses of the intelligence family's members. That was already collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and it's regardless of who becomes it. See, we have to start dealing with mandated law proper. When someone asks, in other words, they've been fabricating audio and video transcripts. There's an aside syndrome that is maintained self-valued even historically, because it's being valued now, which is relative to this database is tied. Torture / slavery method that each modern country is about, and how it is sickly distinctly against everyone to effectively measure and maintain roles, needs, and natures, pretending to speak about the law honestly with passions and emotions, leaving such out as collusions with uses of it of other things recorded effect consciously assigned, blamed for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and nature. The suburbs were designed for torture / slavery while it was sustained. While the laws forced everyone to pretend not to realize and try to complain about one of those subjects. No, let alone short words regarding the whole thing, individually grouped it together, every part. Control your heart. Control your mind. For your heart, control your mind. Mr. Mines, free speech, and Romulus attends. When the Republic admits right, beginnings ends, where all tends. Seek ends, begins, seek the starts. Free your hearts. Mine. Mr. Mine. YouTuber Anthony Wall, boxer. I have to get my professional boxing license. I've been delayed. If you could believe it, it's recorded anyway, since before the World Trade Center attack, shortly before it, by people who had been involved years before it, affecting fake communications with me at corners of schools with relative confessions used vertically and horizontally by the breaching method through our own no, but distinctly from how the church uses it, no, but also non-distinctly. The church and mosques and the names associated with it, and then defense of that also at other locations, no, preventing what is written at the beginning of the Old Testament and of the Quran from being known about, let alone, appreciated. When it says, too, those books say this is the only part that matters right here. To be a Muslim, all you have to do is agree to call the scientific value of what is hyper-simultaneous, Allah or not. If you're not going to be a Muslim, you don't call it that. And then it says, still love those people. She's trying to force integrity of law where it's going to pretend it's integrity before it is, where it's still collusion with use/S of all locations/S. And not just for what that cause individually grouped and together, and cause is that way. Uses of all that and the other for what everyone missed, increasingly juxtaposed with all those subject treatments, names, treatments, uses, instances, references, descriptions, all sides of legal cases, also lawyers. It's not just all sides of criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, and then again through time. This shows what's actually hyper-evidentially manifest, hyper-evidentially recorded. See, we have natures recorded that need to offensively pretend not to understand what hyper-evidential means. They have to self-value means to get away with that. Well, it's not something formally having been defined. They know I said to you guys before, they've been forcing campuses to cover up exceptions, not as the interbranch, but capable of acting on for their identity and, influencing them. And furthering their use of that /S of their criminal foreign influence, quality of fact-shaped nature, aspects of fact-shaped nature already. It's not legitimately when they pretended passions and emotions behind putting people in jails for all the reasons they pretended when they put people in jails in New York City, for example. Sickly distinctly from the people in Hartford, Connecticut. Sickly, and these are completely innocent people too, involved with the interbranch, also having forced with their federal evidence, crime delusions planting, roles with various natures of federal criminal, child abusers, elderly abusers, names with it proven, but it's still further recorded then and now. Confessed to no. The confessions are also used to measure and maintain. Collusions blamed on other things, others ourselves. and where and how that they're being used remotely. Even truths like how a mother is going to care about her kids being used to pretend motivations tied to the roles with sequence shifts, tied to, in other words, it is very easy to understand what get on paper means and fix the fake news. They also pretend motivations for this and defense of that sequence shifts. These are also people roles with recorded uses of poisons and of other insidious things, where how they are also from overtly through time as people with corners of streets, involved also with the news media planting evidences and with stories, positive and negative ones, at the same because this is identity racketeering, worse than war crimes. I'm using the name racketeering because we have to change the reception of acts and of nature. Nature we have is identity of relationship to itself. We're going to use what's hyper evidentially actually recorded, and which is capable of being used to show collusions originally instilled with all identities of difference and with all readings of the statutes. People involved with the corner of Elm Street and Route 3 since I was a kid. In Weathersfield, and have been roles with intercities locations with federal evidence crimes on off campuses, putting little tricks where truths are used for lies, and that's kept self value. Where and how there are remote uses of theater definitions and theater defenses of justice integrity. As the branches individually grouped and together, they are also grouped, just like the countries. Other countries have the same exact problem slash S, and where it is sickly distinctly, that's self-value because of needs by the logics as manifest to blame other things other than self. Tend not to realize preemptively too. So we have these subject treatments being and having been employed, like fentanyl, effectively employed to keep roles with the worst use the worst drug crime motivations and uses and roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Also, involved with the names at the only locations that can counter such. Involved with all sides of legal cases since they were kids. Also, as the sources involved with that, and lawyers planting evidence as fake motivations. It's serious. Please fix the fake conversations with me, WFSB, and get on to Bench Branch, Connecticut, who has been switching names with you and with their family members and their narratives by their motivations associated with it, because that's being used to screen where their actual motivations are, where and how you've been also roles in other private and civil cases, abuses of people, also timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, pretended integrity of your military and interbranch, other exceptions, including medical. You guys have sick physical delusions, nature delusions, and identity delusions. I'm not even a doctor. You have them with doctors and ones with badges, intercities involved with you with this. And I still didn't get a response for the principal child offenders' confessions and demonstrations of roles with wire crimes and mail crimes and falsified police reports with other child sex offenders and medical and judicial offenders. It's names associated with the shopping centers through time, in the malls, and the routes, all along Route 3, all along Route 175 from Weathersfield, from the founding locations involved with slavery, witch trials, right to Hartford, right to that too, but right to Central Connecticut State University, involved with people, involved with times, increasingly connected. World Trade Center attack involved. World Trade Center has roles with uses of medical databases and the names associated with people that aren't even medical, but like tied to databases where they employ conversations of people in the furtherance of criminally foreign influenced federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slander method roles. method slash S roles. That's what American history is about. It's not to pretend there's a debate. Oh, you're using the name of our country bad. Our founders told us to use it bad and good, other than you guys want to debate. And then you get away with it because you have criminally foreign influence, quality of, evaluation of quality of fact, human nature, aspects of it, value evaluations of it. So you switch names so you can get away with it. Self-valued roles with remote uses of all investigators, identities, of perception upon that, and where how manifest with syntax, logic, therefore functions. Fall, big fake branches fall. Surges through all things, even each wall. Cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall. These are three distinct identities of relationship to itself. The identity of sequence slash simultaneous nature, appreciating also that conjunctive with and as water and its hyperadditional elements in their identity of relationship to itself. And the gases, individually grouped and together in its identity of relationship to itself too, and or leaves of IDs. We could be space systems other than its own, individually grouped and together. The rest of the species, human species, or the rest of the species bodies, they don't have criminal foreign influences. They don't self-value leaving the earth. And while we're still in that rat trap that if you even deny it, you're going to have hyper-evidential conjunctive to your quality of fact, human nature, aspects of fact, human nature. New York is being tortured / enslaved, sickly distinctly from the other states. I mean, every location. The suburbs were employed to measure and maintain other things, others, ourselves, blamed for the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while the only means provided increasingly to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures were if collusion with uses of criminal and seditious natures of positive treatment. And again, wherever there is a positive or negative treatment, there's an identity treatment. See Native Dreams. It lifts fresh water high, attending stream. See Navajo. Dreams focused on the syntactical possession of the human volume / as science, as it actually is, as it was inherited, only having been remembered, with having effectively replaced that which nature already taught humanity. Evolution science only feels like gain / S. I tell it best, vaccines. I teach us things. The species body longs to shadowbox. Okay, please watch my shadowboxing YouTube shorts, videos, Anthony Wall. Please chant Romulus. That's all. Thank you.